Thank you for downloading this Brum Radio podcast. For more podcasts, visit brumradio.com.
And now, for your listening pleasure, it's the Brum Picture Show, brought to you by Brum Radio.
Hello and welcome to the Brum Picture Show, the film show brought to you by Birmingham-based community cinema collective Screen B14. On this week's show, to celebrate the release of Beetlejuice, we thought we'd talk about Hollywood's favourite mad-haired goth, Tim Burton. Of course, best known for directing the remake of Planet of the Apes, which everyone loved and not a bad word was said against it. But also director of such films as 1989's Batman, Edward Scissorhands, loads of stuff. Joining me today, as always, is someone with equally spectacular hair as Tim Burton, and someone who also has a keen eye for the darkness in the world. Earlier today, she gleefully commented that she saw a crow eating a dead squirrel and thought it was wonderfully Burton-esque. It's the great Nadine O'Mahony. How's it going, Nadine?
Terribly.
Oh.
I felt like that would bring the darkness in right from the get-go.
Well, yeah. And you're also dressed like Beetlejuice today.
Yeah.
For the listeners at home.
Got my stripes on. As the Tim Burton fans listening will know, Tim Burton finds black and white stripes very soothing.
Good stuff. Well, thanks for joining me as always, Nadine. Now, regular listeners may remember that once in a blue moon, we are joined by a guy called Rory, who routinely gives us excuses for not being on the show that are as fantastical as Tim Burton's films. But I'm glad to say, Nadine, that I've discovered something about Rory, a loophole, if you will, to get him on the show. Now, apparently, if you say his name 3 times, he'll be plucked from whatever realm he is currently occupying, and he'll just materialize in front of you. So, do you want to give this a go with me, Nadine?
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna say it. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Rory, Rory, Rory.
And I'll have the chicken nuggets with fries with that, please. Oh, what?
Yeah.
What?
That's right. It works, Nadine.
Where am I?
He's here. He's here.
What's happened?
Right. I don't know if you remember, Rory.
What?
But
Who are you? Who's this?
I'm Paul.
Oh.
Yeah. You used to do a show called the Brum Picture Show, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what we've done is we've summoned you through supernatural magical means, and now you're here recording an episode of the Brum Picture Show, and you got no choice.
It's not. I'm hungry.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. No chicken nuggets for you.
You've got the show, and then you can have your nuggets.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
That sounds good. Yeah.
So this is great, isn't it? Well, this is really relieving to know that we can do this now. He's never going to miss the show again. This is great. No matter what you're doing, no matter what milestone you might be enjoying in your life, be it a holiday or your wedding or birth of your first child, we'll be able to summon you to do this show.
And you'll always be there.
Always. Isn't that great, Nadine?
Immense.
I've actually, I've got some things to say. Well, I thought I had some things to declare on this radio show, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's not a rebuttal like it was last time.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I did listen in.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling very sore.
Oh yes, to the last episode.
Yeah.
Yes, if you weren't listening to the last episode, unfortunately, film director Paul Schrader, who also criticised films, very much criticised Rory's film, Letters from Space. And then, he went off and pursued a career as a gigolo in order to please Paul Schrader. And then he went to McDonald's. Yeah. So is that were you gigoloing at McDonald's? Or?
Yeah. Well, this is it. As I said, I'm feeling very sore, both physically and emotionally. After Paul Schrader's comments about Letters from Space and my subsequent market research. And I guess the one good thing is I didn't think the Birmingham population would find me so alluring.
Wow.
Well, you underestimate yourself, Rory.
Yeah. So that was quite nice, actually. It was quite comforting.
Yeah. And
it opened up a different perspective for me with filmmaking. And I was popular.
Oh, wow. So in a way, it was a good thing that Paul Schrader slated your film.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it, led to an awakening.
And I also wanted to apologise to you, Paul, and sorry for keeping you on the waiting list. I couldn't allow mates' rates despite how much you begged.
Honestly, I got my number. I got my ticket. Still waiting. It's like
It's like Beetlejuice.
It's like Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
It's massive. It's about 6 foot long, this slip.
Yeah,
Can't even
I don't want
count
to hear
how
about
many
your
figures
6
it
foot
is.
long slip.
Oh,
But yeah, no, it changed me as a filmmaker, and I've actually got a new project on the go.
Oh, yeah.
Inspired by my recent sort of activity.
Go on.
It's called Gigolos in Space.
Oh, okay.
And it's sort of a space opera
Yeah.
about a male escort
Yeah.
who gets involved with the wife of a leader of the Senate.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's framed for murder and hunted by Boba Fett.
Have you got the rights for?
No, I'm working on that.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
working on
I'm
that.
sure Disney will have no issue
Well,
with
yeah,
that.
it's like a classic. It's
Yeah.
like Gigolos in Space. I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty impactful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
I'd
Would you
pay
watch
to
that?
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great to see that you're keeping that space theme going throughout all of your films.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's the big thing. You can put anything and then you put in space,
Yeah.
and suddenly people are like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Radio in space.
Yeah. Radio in space. Muppets in space.
Muppets in space.
Obviously.
Beetlejuice in space, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet that idea was floated at a point.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, first up, as always, it is time for the news section. Anything catch your eye in the news this week, Rory?
I looked. There's a new film, an A24.
There's a new film.
Yeah.
Oof.
It's about ping pong.
What, really?
Game?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
with Gwyneth Paltrow and Timothy Chalamet.
Oh,
Wow.
well, that's going to be a hit.
Yeah, which I reckon will be really cool.
So ping pong, not pong.
No, ping pong.
The real life
So it's like-
table tennis.
Yeah.
Right.
Ping
Like
pong.
challenges with table tennis.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah. And it's an
interesting.
A24 film. So
Oh, yeah. There we
that's
go.
gonna be fun.
We love A24 on the Brum
I'm-
Picture Show.
I'm loving everything apart from perhaps Gwyneth Paltrow, but that's,
Yeah. Okay.
But
And it's
sounds-
Josh Safdie
Oh, wow. that's
directing.
good.
directing. Josh. Yeah. Josh
Oh,
Safdie
wicked.
directed. It's
Oh,
a
okay,
film.
interesting.
It's about Marty Reisman, the non-fictional American non-fictional. Oh,
Right.
Sorry, it took me a while to get the real life. Why is
right.
it non-fictional?
Interesting.
It's about the non-fictional American ping pong legend Marty Reisman,
Okay.
the wizard of table tennis. He won 22 major ping pong titles in a career that spanned over 6 decades,
Oh.
rising from hustling bets on the streets of New York to hanging with the Harlem Globetrotters in a stranger-than-fiction true story of sporting genius.
Oh.
Yeah, that's me.
That's it. All right, wicked. Thank you very much,
There you
Rory,
go.
for your contribution. Nadine, anything catch your eye this week?
Yeah. The first look of King of Kings has been released.
Yes,
Is that your news?
I was going to mention that.
All right,
but-
I won't do that.
No, you can do it.
Okay.
Because I have got another news.
Well, we can
Yeah.
discuss it together, but this image has been released
Yeah.
of this beautiful sunset and this sort of child, I guess, standing
Mhm.
in front of the sunset. You're like, okay, that's interesting. This is all I know about this film,
Yeah.
but it sounds absolutely bonkers.
It sounds mad.
It's
mad.
called King of Kings.
Yeah.
It's starring Oscar Isaac as Jesus Christ,
Mhm.
which I can see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
The film follows Charles Dickens
Yeah.
as he takes his son on a multi-dimensional adventure to watch the fascinating life of Jesus.
It's mad. That's crazy, isn't
And
it?
it will be in theatres on Easter weekend 2025.
Yeah. I'm amazed by this news. This is what a headline.
Like, what?
Apparently, this is actually based on a real thing called The Life of Our Lord, which was a posthumously published Charles Dickens short story that focuses on the life and times of Jesus Christ. I don't know whether there's any multidimensional travel within this short story. I'm not sure whether the concept of the multiverse was a thing in Charles Dickens' time.
I do think a rename would work. Charles Dickens' Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
I think
That would sell.
be a better.
But no, it sounds like this is, it sounds like a bonkers idea, but it sounds like this is actually quite a serious, like, Christian film, actually.
Well, nothing is more Christian than Charles Dickens, is it? I mean, he's already cornered the Christmas market.
That's true.
With Scrooge.
That's true.
So obviously it's time to
He's
take
milked
on
that
Easter.
one, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Have you guys been to Dickens World?
No.
Dickens World, because I'm from sort of Kent, and that was one of the big local attractions.
Yeah.
And it was this sort of amusement park based on Charles Dickens. But it was really falling into disrepair sort of 5 years ago. It was falling into disrepair as a kid. Like there was a log flume ride and it kept breaking down and that sort of thing.
What was the log flume ride?
It was just a log
great
flume.
Expectations.
Yeah.
There was a log flume.
Yeah, there was lots of sort of poor kids walking around.
Little urchins.
No, I think they were just local kids who needed a place to stay. But
sorry, where was this?
Dickens World.
No, where is Dickens World?
I think it's in Ashford in Kent.
Oh, it would be in that Kent.
Let me just have a look at Dickens.
They would have that.
Oh, it's in Chatham Dockside in Kent. But yeah, it was really falling apart. But I'm hoping that this is going to sort of give it a bit of life, maybe.
Yeah, I hope so.
Shut in the arm, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like it's going to be successful. This thing because it's got Kenneth Branagh, who's going to be starring as Charles Dickens. Oscar Isaac is going to be Jesus. And then Ben Kingsley, Forrest Whitaker, Uma Thurman, Mark Hamill, Pierce Brosnan, and Roman Griffith Davis.
As the 12 Apostles.
Yeah, they're all going to be in there. Have we mentioned this is animated, though?
Oh.
Yeah, so it's not as exciting as in, all of these people aren't actually going to be, hanging out together. But yeah. Yeah, but bonkers. I'm looking forward to seeing whatever that is. Okay, so my news, I've got some serious news, okay? So this is actually from BBC News. So the BBC, obviously, that's a serious news outlet. And most of the time, they don't report on the entertainment industry unless it's something really significant, like James Earl Jones passing away. So the fact that it is migrated from the usual entertainment outlets to the BBC, that means something. So you ready? You ready to hear what it is?
Right.
Fans will find out what happened to Aunt Lucy in the next Paddington film.
Aunt Lucy?
Lucy.
Will we?
Yeah, I know. It's a bombshell, isn't it? The new Paddington film, Paddington in Peru, according to Ben Whishaw, will follow Paddington's return to the South American country to find his beloved Aunt Lucy, voiced by Imelda Staunton. Because, apparently, when Paddington reaches the home for retired bears, where Aunt Lucy is meant to be staying, she's not there. But Ben Whishaw, he's assured us the mystery will be solved. Okay?
Thank God.
Yeah. But yes.
Thank God.
So Ben Whishaw, he was asked whether he could promise viewers that they would find out what really happened to Aunt Lucy. And Whishaw said, yes.
Oh, that's good.
And then you will find out, he said. And then he was asked if he could reveal Lucy's fate. And he responded, no, I absolutely cannot tell you. So there you go. BBC News, hard-hitting stuff.
Oh, I'm a little
We're going to find out what's going to happen. What are you disappointed by?
I thought it would be like a sort of avant-garde, Waiting for Godot style art house drama.
And they never solved it. Yeah.
Like La Ventura.
Yeah.
We never find out what happens to Aunt Lucy.
Yeah.
I think that's the braver creative decision.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe Ben Whishaw is doing a Marvel kind of thing. What was it? One of the Marvel
Andrew
guys.
Garfield.
Yeah, Andrew Garfield thing going, no, we're totally going to solve it. And then we go see Paddington 3 and it is just an avant-garde existential drama.
Good.
It's
I
possible.
look forward to that.
Yeah. There we go. So, looking forward to it. I mean, I can't wait for the new Paddington. I don't care. What do you think, Nadine? It's going to be great.
It's wholesome fun, isn't it?
It is. It's beautiful. They're beautiful, beautiful films. And it's going to have lots of the regulars coming back. And there's also going to be Antonio Banderas. He's going to be there.
Oh.
In it.
Is Willem Dafoe going to be in it?
I hope so. I would
love
love
Willem
that.
Dafoe. He's just in everything now.
No, he is. He really does seem to be working a lot at the moment, doesn't he?
He's like salt. You just add him to everything.
So we sprinkle a little bit of Willem in there.
Yeah.
Like that. Olivia Colman is also joining the cast as well. So that's cool. And also, apparently, Sally Hawkins, she's handed the role of Mrs. Brown to Emily Mortimer. Which I didn't know. I wonder why she.
Well, I always get them too confused anyway.
Well, there you go. So shouldn't be an issue.
I don't know if I would have even noticed that if she hadn't mentioned it.
Well, there we go. But I can't wait.
That's some good news.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Some good, wholesome news.
I'm glad someone appreciates it.
Yeah.
You are listening to the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio, and today we are talking about all things Tim Burton to celebrate the release of Beetlejuice. Now, you know Tim Burton, right? In many ways, he's the godfather of Hollywood goth, isn't he? Very recognisable style.
The goth father, you could call him.
The goth father.
Oh, that's good.
That is good. He's very recognisable. He's distinctly Tim Burton. And I suppose, in a way, he's a bit like Wes Anderson, isn't he? In that most of the time, you can watch something and go, Tim Burton in it.
Yeah, very distinct style.
Very distinct style.
I think that comes from his illustrations, because he's an artist, isn't he?
He is. Well, yes, that's kind of how he started out, actually. So first of all, yes, he was born in Burbank, California, and his father was a former minor league baseball player, and his mother, she owned a cat-themed gift shop. Imagine that for a career. I wouldn't mind having a cat-themed gift shop. So there you go. And so he used to make stop-motion films in his backyard as a youngster. He made his own adaptation of The Island of Dr. Monroe. Did you know? So started being a creative little goth boy. Can you imagine little Tim Burton with his big hair?
Well, that's the interesting thing, because I've seen, in my research, I've seen some photos of Tim Burton as a child.
Yeah.
He was like just a normal looking little blonde kid.
Oh, that's not how I picture him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame.
I don't know if he like poked a fork in a socket or something. I don't know what happened. But at some point he evolved into the man we know and love today.
We need to find out the origin stories of the Tim Burton hair. We should probably do that later. But yes, so he was a very creative little boy. And eventually, one of his early short films that he made attracted the attention of Disney, who hired him in the animation department, where he took on various roles. He worked on a bunch of films like The Fox and the Hound, and he worked on Tron and The Black Cauldron. And then he made his first proper short film was a film called Vincent, about a young boy who pretends that he was Vincent Price. And it was actually narrated by Vincent Price himself, which was pretty cool. And then he also made Frankenweenie, about a kind of Frankenstein dog, which of course he made into a feature-length film many, many years later as well. And that caught the attention of Paul Rubin, who asked him to direct Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And then there we go. That kickstarted Tim Burton. And that marked his first collaboration with Danny Elfman from The Simpsons, etc. Oingo Boingo. And they've pretty much worked on everything together since, like Danny Elfman.
Apart from like 2 or 3.
Yeah, Ed Wood, they had a bit of a falling out beforehand. And there was something else as well. But basically him and Danny Elfman, very, very close, apparently.
Tim got fired from Disney for being too dark, apparently. But then they brought him back years later.
Yeah.
So there you go. Sometimes you gotta lean into the darkness.
That's right. I believe in a thing called love.
Anyway,
so yes, Pee-wee's Big Adventures, big success. And then came Beetlejuice, which is fair to say that is where he cemented his name as Tim Burton. And that was where the real Tim Burton style was really born, I suppose. So
sort of,
lots of fantastical gothic madness going on, and again lots of stop motion animation, just weird freaky stuff, I suppose. That's what he's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a weird little freak, isn't he?
You've got to stop quoting me, maybe.
No, but that's like a self-described weirdo.
Oh my god,
he's a self-described weird freak. I don't feel like that's an insult. I think he takes that on as his mantle.
I'm sure he'd love that if he's listening.
I think he'd be overjoyed.
Yeah, Tim, if you're listening, you're a freak.
I feel like the little's the most belittling thing there.
You're a little freak.
King of the weird little freaks.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
Yeah. But yes, so the success of Beetlejuice proved that he could bring in big box office with a low budget, and then he was trusted with Batman.
Ooh.
And there you go. So obviously, Michael Keaton, obviously from Beetlejuice, he was a controversial choice at first, but the film was a hit and made Burton Hollywood royalty. This then led to, for me, a golden run in the 90s. Edward Scissorhands, which of course led to his love affair with Johnny Depp.
Not literal.
We don't know.
Okay, potentially.
It's possible. I can see it. Yeah.
Collaborative partnership.
His collaborative partnership. But yes, and then of course there was Batman Returns, and then Nightmare Before Christmas, which of course he only produced and did not direct, but Not that you'd really know that from the marketing. Like his name is plastered all over it.
I think that was a Disney choice.
Right.
To sell it.
Yeah.
And it's based on his idea and his style.
Mm-hmm.
But it was directed by the same director who did James and the Giant Peach and Coraline.
Yeah, Henry Selick.
Yeah.
But I feel quite bad for Henry Selick because I think, I reckon if you asked the average person on the street who directed Nightmare Before Christmas, they'd either say, I don't know, or Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Or leave me alone, Paul.
Yeah, I was like, who are you? go away. But yeah, and then also in the 90s, we've also got Ed Wood, which is one of my favourite films. We've got Mars Attacks, which maybe one of us will talk about later. And then he topped off the 90s with Sleepy Hollow, which again, maybe one of us will talk about in a bit.
Maybe.
And so, yeah, that is a golden run of films, I'd say. And I reckon because of that, Tim Burton obviously passes the Rob Reiner test. Rory's barometer of quality that he introduced on the show. Does a director's top 5 films match that of Rob Reiner? And I'd say yes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
No controversies here.
Excellent. The grand adjudicator of the Rob Reiner test has spoken.
Nice one, Tim.
What an honour. But it's safe to say that the 21st century perhaps saw a decline in Burton's reputation. And this, I guess, was down to his reimagining of Planet of the Apes, which actually was a commercial success, but it was not popular with critics or indeed audiences. And that, tarnished his reputation a little bit. But they still, in his later career, there's still stuff like Big Fish, which I think is a very underrated film. And then we've got his remake of Alice in Wonderland and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which many thought were nightmarish films, and not in a good way. And then he's had things like Dark Shadows and Dumbo not being particularly universally loved. But I'd say there's still some gems in there, like Big Eyes in particular. I'm a big fan of that one.
Not seen that, but I'd really like to see it.
Yeah. No, it's about an artist under the control of her abusive and coercive husband. And so that was kind of very much more in the Ed Wood vein of things.
Yeah, based on a true story.
Yeah, based on true story. And actually, at its heart, kind of a serious drama.
Starring Amy Adams.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, and as I said, his remake of Frankenweenie. So, he's still putting out some solid stuff, I'd say, Mr. Tim. So, yeah.
Did you know Frankenweenie was based on his real life dog that died and traumatized him?
Oh, no. What, and then he reanimated it?
Well, I think not literally, but through animation, he
Oh,
was able to reanimate it.
oh, that's sweet.
So, yeah,
Oh.
that's just a little sad fact.
Yeah. So yeah, there we go. So that's kind of a little introduction to Tim Burton. What do we think about Tim Burton, guys? Rory, you like Tim Burton?
Yeah, I do. I do like Tim Burton. Very unique style, which probably isn't for everyone's taste. And I know, as you said, when he starts doing sort of beloved sort of childhood, books, and starts freaking out and traumatizing children, parents might not be happy, but I think they're really interesting. And I think he is a good thing for the film industry.
Yeah. Well done, Tim.
Was a pale, dark-eyed, messy-haired person.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I should thank Tim Burton for making that cool. So I was watching Sweeney Todd with my ex-partner at the time. And if you don't know, Helena Bonham Carter stars in that. She looks very anemic. She's got these circles around her eyes. Her hair's all over the place. And he said, yeah, that's really attractive, that is. And I was like, oh, is that why you're with me? Oh, that makes sense now. So I think I just got to thank Tim Burton for making that a good look.
For all the anemics out there.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim Burton. Doing it for the pale, frizzy-haired weirdos.
Doing your bit. Oh, there we go. Well, that is our introduction to Tim Burton, I suppose. Now, as is customary on this show, we're going to now have a little deep dive into one of his films each. So, Nadine, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
She's perfect for this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful autumnal movie. If you want to watch something spooky for Halloween but not too scary, I'd suggest this. It's a good film.
Mm-hmm.
It's the 25th anniversary as well this year because it's a 1999
Another
movie.
1999 film.
So it must be great.
Yeah.
Because it came out in 1999.
That's the rules.
Kevin Yeager, who's a makeup effects wizard, was originally down to direct. He'd done Tales from the Crypt. It's based on a short story by Washington Irving, based on actually real events, real people. There were Van Tassels, they were real people. But they wanted to do it as like a low-budget slasher movie, and the studio wasn't too keen on that idea. They brought in Tim Burton, and Yeager stayed on to do the special effects, which are pretty amazing. I think one of the things that I would say that really stands out about this film, especially watching it now, is that it's a perfect blend of practical and digital effects, because the Headless Horseman is actually Ray Park, who you may know from the Star Wars movies, with a blue balaclava on. And Industrial Light and Magic digitally removed his face, because they tried to do it with like costume and stuff, because traditionally you might pad out, a costume and it just wasn't working. He had to ride a horse and do lots of stunts and stuff, and they decided the digital effects were the way to go. But there's lots of amazing practical effects. There's lots of great rubbery heads that look super realistic, but not too scary. It was his third collab with Johnny Depp. Yeah. So they'd worked together previously on, I believe, Ed Wood and Edward Scissorhands, basically anything with Ed in it. Yep. They wanted a big star. They wanted like Brad Pitt or somebody. And Johnny Depp, was well known at the time, was very popular. But he wanted to wear prosthetics to look like the character as described in the book, like big nose and big ears and all this. And the studio said no. No. I said no. You're Johnny Depp.
You're too beautiful, Johnny.
Yeah, we need to see those cheekbones. So he decided then to make the character a bit more eccentric. He's not a typical action hero, this character. And I think, to be honest, this was the one thing that put me off when I first watched it, because he's a bit pathetic.
Oh yeah, that's what I like about it.
It's grown on me.
Like he faints at the sight of blood and everything.
He faints literally about 5 times in this film.
Yeah.
But he's got a brilliant mind, and it's about using his powers of deduction to find out what's really going on in this town, because there's this ghost story. He doesn't believe it. He's a man of logic and reason and weird sort of little tools that he's made to kind of he's kind of like a Sherlock Holmes type character in 1799. It's got an amazing cast. Christina Ricci, who was only 18 when she starred in this film, and even Johnny Depp thought that was a bit weird, because he'd known her since she was 9, because he used to date Winona Ryder, and he met her on the set of Mermaids. So it was a bit odd that she was now his love interest, but I guess they went with it. Miranda Richardson is in this from Blackadder fame.
Yeah, Queenie.
And she's absolutely brilliant. She does an American accent. She plays more than one role in this film. She's brilliant. I think she really steals the show. Michael Gambon, Ian McDiarmid of Star Wars fame, Emperor Palpatine, Michael Goth. Christopher Walken is in this for about 5 minutes, but he leaves an impression. Interestingly, he couldn't ride. He has to ride a horse in this film, so I guess that's why he's called Christopher Walken and not Christopher Riding.
Hey!
But anyway, it's very influenced by Tim's love of Hammer horror, Universal horror, Mario Bava's Black Sunday. So yeah, I think originally they wanted to film it outside. They were looking at locations around New York, New England, but nothing was really, doing it for them. And they decided to do it on a soundstage in the UK. And I think that's part of what makes it brilliant. It's so beautifully crafted. They wanted to do it in the UK because we've got such a tradition of beautifully crafted costumes and sets. And that really kind of takes it to another level. It's got that weird, wonky, German expressionist thing that sort of permeates his work. A lot of sort of wonky houses and loads of fog and grey, bruised skies and sort of gnarled trees. It's absolutely gorgeous to look at. There's a homage to Frankenstein with the windmill at the end. Really beautiful film and a great mystery. It's actually, I think, a really decent mystery story as well. Because like I said, there's these mysterious deaths. There's a rumour that there's a headless horseman. He's got to investigate this. Is it really a ghost? Is it a human? What's going on? There's lots of twists and turns in the story that I won't spoil. But I think it plays out really well, and I think it's a fun ride. I recommend it. I think it's a really, really great film worth watching.
Yeah, I love Sleepy Hollow. I think it's one of the most Tim Burton films. It is that is the aesthetic, isn't it? With all the gnarly trees and the
pale people and
pale folks, the hair, all that kind of stuff.
The pumpkins.
Yeah, no, I love it. It is one of my favourite Johnny Depp performances. Like, he is just so pathetic in it.
And Christopher Lee's in it as well.
Oh yes, of course he is.
I forgot to mention he has a cameo in it.
Very briefly. You a Sleepy Hollow fan, Rory?
I haven't seen it.
Oh.
Sounds good though.
Well, you should see it.
You better watch it.
And you know what else you should watch, Rory?
What?
And you, Nadine. Whilst I love Sleepy Hollow, it's not actually my favourite adaptation of the story of Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman. My favourite adaptation of that comes from the television show Wishbone, which was on Saturday mornings on Milkshake on Channel 5. And it was a show about a Jack Russell Terrier who would reenact a different bit of classic literature every week. And I used to love it. And there was one where he is Ichabod Crane going around in the olden times. And they get the dog in all these different costumes and all that kind of stuff.
And Tim Burton would love that.
I was going to say,
there's a dog in it.
Yeah, exactly. So
He's
there you
obsessed
go.
with dogs.
So yeah, did you ever watch Wishbone?
No, what? Maybe?
No?
I don't remember.
No, the dog.
But this is good. So if you can't get your hands on that, watch this instead. Perfect Halloween, spooky.
Yeah.
Not quite family friendly, but almost family friendly viewing.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so if you never watched a Tim Burton film, Sleepy Hollow is a very good place to start,
exactly,
I would say.
Yeah.
I am going to talk about Mars Attacks! ! From 1996. So Mars Attacks is based on a science fiction trading card series, which I don't think we really got in this country, but they were a big deal apparently. And there was talks of doing a few film adaptations of them. So originally, Alex Cox was going to be directing a version of Mars Attacks, apparently. He, of course, directed Repo Man. And then also there was talk about doing a Dinosaur Attacks, because apparently there were some dinosaur-based trading cards as well. But that didn't happen because of the success of Jurassic Park. And they thought it'd be too similar to Jurassic Park, but it wouldn't be the same, would it?
I mean, that happens all the time in the industry.
Oh, right. Well, yes. Yeah. But I don't quite understand that because, I like dinosaurs. There's not enough non-Jurassic Park dinosaur films. But anyway, it's funny you should say that, though, because Mars Attacks is basically the exact same film as Independence Day, which came out 5 months before Mars Attacks. So obviously it was another one of those Deep Impact Armageddon things where they were developed at the same time and then Independence Day came out first. But they are structurally exactly the same film because they both take inspiration from alien invasion movies and disaster movies. So one of the main inspirations for this film was Towering Inferno, in that it follows lots of different characters and how they react to this big crisis. So we've got government, we've seen how they react to the aliens, we've got the media, and then we've got some separated parents who maybe they get together at the end and it's all okay. And then we follow some rednecks. Are we allowed to say?
Yeah.
Okay. Rory was really enthusiastic. And then we've got a sleazy tycoon. So it's just seeing how all these different characters deal with this alien invasion. So yeah, it's a cross between that 70s disaster films and then 50s sci-fi films like, War of the Worlds and Invasion of the Body Snatchers and of course Plan 9 from Outer Space, which was directed by Ed Wood, which Tim Burton was working on when he signed on to do Mars Attacks. And he thought, that'll be nice. That'll be a way to play in that 50s sci-fi film ballpark. So
synergy.
a little bit of synergy. So yeah, it clearly really tries to replicate the 50s effects and all that. So originally he wanted to have the Martians be stop motion animation, which would have been really cool, but they were just like, no, that's too expensive, Tim. So we gotta get ILM on board, Industrial Light and Magic, to do some CG aliens, and for some reason that was cheaper. But I guess stop motion is very time consuming. But I think it kind of works for this film because it's obviously quite shaky CGI, but that kind of works because it's just there's a cartoony element to it, and it just seems like more of a stylistic choice than bad CGI. But yeah, it is a very entertaining film, and made most entertaining by its remarkable cast. So Jack Nicholson's there, and he apparently wanted to play all the roles, but instead he just wound up playing 2. So he plays the president, and he also plays this sleazy tycoon character that I was talking about. And he is obviously having so much fun. And then also in there, we've got Glenn Close, we've got Annette Bening, we've got Danny DeVito, we've got Pierce Brosnan, Michael J. Fox, Sarah Jessica Parker, Natalie Portman, Jack Black in a very early role, Pam Grier, Christina Applegate, and even Tom Jones. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And also, Frank Welker is the voice of the aliens, and he was the voice of Nibbler in Futurama, and he's basically the animation world's go-to guy if you want an alien noise. Like Frank Welker, you look at his IMDb page, so many great animal-based performances there. He's a real good voice artist. And another interesting fact that I think Nadine might like is the voice of the Martian translator device is Roger L. Jackson, who is best known as the voice of Ghostface in the Scream films. Yeah, and it was his performance in Mars Attacks that helped him get to the audition for Scream.
Oh, so it all ties in nicely.
Yeah, so there you go. But yeah, I just think it's such a silly film. Like, it opens with a herd of cows on fire, which the studio didn't want them to do, and they fired the original writer because they kept asking him to take that out. And it was like, we don't want the cows on fire, and then you just refused to take it out. So they fired him, and then
set him on fire.
Set him on fire.
Oh my God.
So they set him on fire, and then they just got the guys who wrote Ed Wood to come in and do the script.
Shout out to that guy for sticking to his principles.
Yeah, and bafflingly, despite the fact that they fired him because of that, that's still how the film starts. Still starts with the cows on fire.
A needless casualty.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I don't understand that at all. But yeah, it's just so silly. And it's seeing that cast in a cheesy B movie. Because the point is, I think a lot of people's criticisms of it is that it's kind of bad and cheesy. But that's what it's trying to do. It's a parody of those old sci-fi films. So the dialogue is supposed to be a bit clunky, and it is supposed to be a bit stupid and silly and absurd. But yeah, I just think it's just really, really fun. And I suppose as part of the reason I like it so much is it just reminds me of my childhood, because I remember watching this film with my parents quite a lot, and they liked it. I liked it. And it's got aliens. There's a bit when they're all on a spaceship, they're all going around in their Y fronts. That's funny.
It's a bit with a dog in it.
Yeah.
It's a chihuahua.
Yeah, the chihuahua. Yeah. If you want to see Pierce Brosnan's severed head falling in love with Sarah Jessica Parker's head that has been grafted onto a chihuahua, look no further than this film.
Well, that's the review.
Yeah.
That's all you need to say.
That is all you need to say. To be fair, that probably is all I need to say. Watch Mars Attacks.
I would have. But
yeah, all right.
I'll watch it again.
You said you like it, Rory?
Yeah, I do. I watched it maybe 2 years ago, but just on telly. I was flicking through the channels because people used to do that back then. Yeah. And I didn't know what it was. I thought it was, like you said, rubbish. But then it had something. Yeah. It had that kept me watching, and I watched it all, and I thought it was brilliant.
At what point did you realise that it was knowingly rubbish?
I think it was Jack Nicholson.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I think seeing him. But yeah, it was really interesting because I went, the CGI looks so dated, but there's obviously, I didn't realise Tim Burton directed it either, but there is a character to this that, is really engaging.
There you go. So there you go. That's my Tim Burton choice. Rory,
Yo.
what are you going to talk about today?
I'm going to talk about a little-known film called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Because we haven't had enough of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory on this show.
No, we have not.
Is this the Gene Wilder version?
No, it's the version that I grew up with as a child.
Yeah.
The 2005 Johnny Depp version and Tim Burton version.
There we go.
Yeah, but firstly, it's great source material for Tim Burton. I just feel like he needs to do more Roald Dahl stories. I think they're
Wes
both.
Anderson's got the
rights now.
Why? He's too bright and colourful and happy. We need someone who's goth, sinister.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I love this film. I think, people complained about it at the time, and it was, as you said, it was like sort of a childhood nightmare come to life. But, at the time, I think that Roald Dahl's creepy. His stories are creepy. And I think that worked really, really well. It was also written by John August, who is a frequent collaborator with Tim Burton. And I don't know if you know much, Nadine, about John August.
I think he's written a few screenwriting books, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. If you're into screenwriting, he's a leading figure. He's got a podcast. Sorry for advertising other podcasts.
There are no other podcasts.
I forgot. He's got a podcast called Script Notes, which is like a really, really brilliant podcast for screenwriters. And he's written Big Fish. He was the writer of Big Fish and Frankenweenie as well. So he's worked with Tim Burton a lot. I really like this film because it's very practical. It's built sets, practical effects. Recently, there's a clip that's been going around on Instagram, I think, of Veruca Salt when she gets attacked by squirrels, because everyone thinks they're CGI squirrels, but they're not. They're real squirrels.
They really unleashed some squirrels on a small child.
But they were born and raised and trained for that scene.
What?
Yeah, you can find the clip online. They run onto her and she has to fall over.
Wow.
I don't know how that was acceptable then.
Yeah, and imagine that being your entire reason for existence. You were bred to crawl on a.
I think I saw one of those squirrels earlier today getting eaten by a crow.
I feel like Tim Burton should make a film about that squirrel.
Yeah,
that'd be brilliant.
That sounds more interesting than the film. That's amazing.
Yeah. Huh. So I just think you're drawn into that world, and as I said, it is the story that I grew up with. I watched that one way before I watched the Gene Wilder version. So I've got a special connection, I think, to that film, much like people did before with that. Which is, I think, why a lot of the film's got a lot of the criticism, because it's been in the shadow of that film, and Johnny Depp's performance is in the shadow of Gene Wilder's performance as well.
And Michael Jackson.
Yes. And I was actually about to mention that because, as you said, it was criticised at the time as being compared to MJ.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of people's problem with it is it was the wrong kind of creepy. I mean, Gene Wilder is still a creepy wonker, but Johnny Depp's version does give off more of a, of course, Willy Wonka is literally a child predator in the film, so.
I mean, he's got a chocolate factory.
Yeah, so why not channel MJ?
But actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because Tim Burton responded to that criticism, and he said that Depp's iteration of the character doesn't like children, unlike Michael Jackson.
That is an important distinction to make, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's still a creepy performance, but yeah.
And there's nothing creepier. No. So I think for me, I have a real special place for it. It depends on which version you grew up with, and people sort of my age or roundabouts, I think, do have an affinity with that film that I think critics and other people don't quite recognise.
So how old would you have been when that came out? 2005?
8.
Okay, right, interesting. So Nadine and I don't really have a childhood Willy Wonka because we're too young for Gene Wilder and too old for Johnny Depp.
We've missed out, haven't we?
Yeah,
it's still the Willy Wonka experience.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys need to find your Wonka.
Yeah, definitely.
You're my Wonka. Yes, go on.
That was about it. Yeah, just really love the film.
So you genuinely like it. You really like it.
I really do.
Wow, okay. That's interesting.
Unapologetically.
Right. And you've seen the Gene Wilder version now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you still think the Tim Burton version's better?
Not better, I think, but I think I have a closer connection to that.
Yeah.
And also, I don't understand why. Maybe I was too young to even understand why people hated that film so much. But you look back at it, it's a great film. I think the performances are good. It's got a really interesting tone. Like I said, the practical effects, there's a gothic thing to it.
I was going to say, it's not goth enough for me.
Not goth enough.
I don't like the bright, colourful Tim Burton, the Pee Wee Herman and the...
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, I like the...
Do you like Alice in Wonderland?
I haven't seen that.
No.
I like the dark, moody, gory.
So you wanted it to be more of a nightmare?
I think it needed to be stripier.
Yeah. More
black
like
and white
Neverland.
stripes.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a 15 rated version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Considering how dark Roald Dahl stories are, it would be nice to see a filmmaker lean into that darkness to, an R-rated level. And Tim Burton would have been the man to do that.
Well,
but it's still violent, isn't it?
Tim Burton has form for making films that seem like they're for children, but when you watch them, really are not for children. Yeah. So I'm thinking Batman 2. And he got in a lot of trouble for that with McDonald's because they made McDonald's toys for the film. And if you've seen it, it's not a kid's film. It's very adult.
I don't know if we can use this anecdote, but our Screen B14's first screening was Beetlejuice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was my idea.
And that was advertised as a children's film.
No, we didn't. We did not advertise it as a children's film. Basically, here's the story. Here's the real deal. Beetlejuice on DVD is a 15. But for some strange quirk of the BBFC, the theatrical version is a 12A. So somebody came with their children who were younger than the recommended 12, and they did walk out. But I think what makes it really an amazing screening is that we did it in a church, and it's basically a film about a demon who assaults women, and they build a little bordello for him and he drops
terrified.
the F-bomb.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted the ground to open up and swallow me. But I think that was really edgy. And I think Tim Burton would have loved it.
Yeah. What's relevant to this is what we're saying about it not being quite a children's film is the 12 rating was invented for Batman, for Tim Burton's Batman in 1989.
12A.
No, the 12.
But
it just, in the olden times, it just went from PG to 15. So then he made Batman, and they were like, well, what are we going to do about this? Because we can't release this as a PG, but this is ostensibly for children. So
this might be worth a Google, but I feel like the 12A was invented for Beetlejuice.
No.
What was it in? Because
the 12A was the 12A. Yeah, the 12A. This is a tangent. The 12A was invented because of Spider-Man. Because people were annoyed that they couldn't take their kids to see Spider-Man, so they were like, right, we'll follow the American model that you can bring in kids younger as long as we've got your parents. But the first film to actually be classified as 12A was The Bourne Identity. But basically the 12 rating cinematically was introduced in 1989 for Batman, but it wasn't introduced for home video until 1994. So what you'd get was a load of anything that kind of came out in that era that was a 12, that would be reclassified to a 15. So that's why Beetlejuice would have been a 15 on home video, but I
love how you give me
that was brilliant.
He gives me stick for my box office news, and then goes on a 10-minute soliloquy about box office ratings.
He's the supreme leader.
But I love the Batman films, and Tim Burton basically reinvented the superhero genre.
Yeah.
And I would have really loved to have seen a third film, because there were plans. He wanted to do a Catwoman film with Michelle Pfeiffer in black and white, inspired by cat people. So that would have been amazing. So
that doesn't sound like the kind of thing that would ever have happened.
But it should have done.
It should have done. So Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you got anything else to say about that?
No, it's finished.
It's finished.
That's
okay.
That's your lot.
Well, there we go. Thank you very much, Rory, for sharing that with us. I haven't seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory for ages, but you know what? I'm going to revisit it now.
and pretend to be me at 8 years old.
Yes. Can you describe what that would entail? How would I go about
Did you have a beard then?
Yeah.
No, I was actually very, very cute.
Oh,
I think I was blonde.
What happened?
Yeah,
like Tim Burton.
We grew up. We grew up.
Well, I've never seen the film.
Have you not? Okay.
Wow.
And I don't think I will watch it now. Right. But I do love the backstory that they added with how his dad was a dentist or something. I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Why wouldn't you watch it?
Because it looks awful.
You don't like children's films, do you? Or
I don't like colour and joy.
You said it was too bright.
Yeah.
It's not even that bright.
No, but for Tim Burton, you can divide him basically into two categories. His bubblegum films and his goth films. And then there's like a little mini kind of slightly realistic films like Ed Wood and Big Eyes.
Yeah.
And the goth films are the ones for me.
Very good.
See, I would argue it's on the goth side.
What?
It's
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I think it's on the goth side.
No, it is too bright.
You think
it's too bright. Okay. Yeah. No, I do agree with Nadine.
Yeah.
You are listening to the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio, and today we've been talking all things Tim Burton, and now it is time for the review section, and we're going to be talking about Beetlejuice. So yeah, well, it's been a long time coming, this new Beetlejuice film, because apparently they were talking about doing a sequel since the original came out, but it just keeps being shelved. So we nearly got a Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian film.
Yeah.
That was going to happen at some point, and that would have seen the Dietz family move to Hawaii, and Beetlejuice would have won a surf competition with magic.
Amazing.
But it didn't happen. But yes, but eventually they made one. So this follows on many, many years from the original. What's it, like 35 years or something? A long time. Yeah, and it follows Winona Ryder's Lydia Dietz from the original film, and she's now grown up and working as a supernatural talk show host. And then she starts having visions of Beetlejuice, not sure why. And then when the patriarch of the Dietz family, Charles, dies, she travels with her stepmother and daughter, Jenna Ortega, back to the ghost house from the original film. But that's just one of the plots. We also have Beetlejuice's ex-wife, Monica Bellucci, played by Monica Bellucci, being accidentally resurrected by Danny DeVito in a very brief cameo, who then tries to hunt down Beetlejuice. Then we have Lydia's relationship with her TV colleague, her daughter's relationship with a local boy, and Willem Dafoe playing a dead actor who now thinks he's a PI in the afterlife trying to hunt down Beetlejuice. So there's a lot going on in this film, and in many ways I thought this film had Spider-Man 3 syndrome, in that it's got too many plot lines going on. Yeah, there was a lot of threads in this, and none of them were really given the space to breathe.
They didn't really weave together very well.
They did not.
I do think the script is a bit weak.
Yeah, I think that was the main problem. I didn't think the tone was quite right, because I think in the original, there was a sense that the living were like real people. And like, even though the Dietz family, they're very grotesque and over the top, you know, it's a satire of the yuppie materialistic culture that the 80s was all about, that kind of superficial materialism. But they seem like real people, and that contrasted with the kind of cartoonishness of the afterlife. But here, like, none of the living characters really seem like real people either. So I don't know, that seemed a bit weird for me. And like, yeah, the moment it got started, I was like, "Ooh, the music!" I got goosebumps. I was like, "Yeah, this is great." And then, like, that first scene, my heart kind of slowly sank, and I was like, this isn't quite right. There's something amiss here." But there's still loads to love. It's really great to see Michael Keaton back as Beetlejuice again, like, and he looks exactly the same, because obviously the first film he was just caked in corpse makeup, and now he's caked in corpse makeup, so he just looks. It's just like, wow, Beetlejuice is back, and there's loads of practical effects, although of course there's loads of CG and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know.
It seems to be missing some of the charm of the original.
Yeah.
I think the original was quite low budget, 15 million film. It's got stop motion animation in there. It's shot on film. It's got a very tangible quality to it. And this feels like it's just trying to imitate that, but and it's got a huge budget, and it is Tim Burton, but it feels like a Tim Burton knockoff in a way, in a weird way.
I think one of the bits that really bothered me is like the there's a funeral scene where they've got a choir of kids singing Deo from the original film. And I was like, well, they wouldn't actually have that at Charles's funeral, would they? That's what I mean about them not seeming like real people in this.
I'm disappointed in you.
Why?
I am disappointed in you.
Okay, go on.
Because this is the hot mess.
This is
that I thought you would have loved.
I know. I'm very particular about the type of hot mess that I like.
I disagree with both of you.
Okay.
This is amazing because this is the first time possibly ever that we've all watched the same film.
Yeah, Rory has seen the film that we're reviewing today.
And I'm ready to fight its corner.
Oh, come on.
Oh, go on.
Okay, so I agree. It's completely overwritten. The plot lines doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take itself too seriously. And that's the point. It is a homage to the first film.
Yeah.
And, and it does limit the potential of the film because it'd be good if all the plots, came together in a really cohesive, lovely way and moved the franchise forward. Well, it's not franchise.
Yeah.
Moved the world forward. But it doesn't do that, and it's aware it doesn't do that. For me, it's a series of homages and great quality gags. And I don't think it is badly written. I think there's some really funny bits in it. And I really liked that, the Deo bit.
Oh, yeah, but that's what I mean about it. It's like the original, there was this, the living people were still grounded, but this is like, it just felt like they just put that in because, yeah, you remember that. That would be funny, wouldn't it? And lots of the characters are saying things that just, so because obviously someone's gone, oh, that would be funny, but it's.
I think for me, I can see why you can criticize the film for not being more sort of, for not being better written and being more interesting, really. But the problem is you can't criticize it because it's aware of what it is doing. It's not pretending to be a film that it isn't really. So if, for example, if it was a sort of a sequel that was trying to be like more ambitious than it is, then I think that's a legitimate criticism. But it's really, for me, it's Tim Burton going, I want to do this for fans who like the first film. And here's all the references and here's all the funny, there was a bit where
fan service, you might say.
Fan service, yeah, but it's good fan service. There was the grave of the stepdad who died. Yeah, there's a shark fin.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
I think it's missing Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin. There might be reasons of not having them in it. I know their ghosts don't age, but with de-aging technology these days, or even like having their voices or something in it, because they really are the main characters of the original film alongside Winona Ryder. And I understand why they've written them out, but I think it loses something without their characters in it. And I think a lot like Delia's Snakes, the movie's been defanged. Come on.
Very good. Very good.
But no, because the thing is, like I said, we screened this film in a church. We realised very quickly it was not really a children's film. There's a lot of dark humour, a lot of adult humour in the original. I think it was very edgy, just like, Batman Returns. It was really skated close to the line, maybe even crossed the line a few times. I understand that, times have changed and, young people who go back and watch those films are quite shocked by the content. But I think this was a really watered down version. It was much more kid friendly. It was much more sort of Disney-fied. I know he's not with Disney anymore, but it feels like it's had some kind of effect on him. I just feel like there was a lack of energy. He's so hyperactive. He's so manic in the first one. I know Keaton's aged a little since the first film, but it was just missing that energy for me. It was missing the energy. It was missing that edge. I found, a lot of the story quite predictable, and it was just missing a lot of the humour. And I did, by the time I got into the third act, I hadn't laughed once. The third act I did quite like, and I had a few laughs there. And I enjoy, there was lots of references to Giallo films. Mario Bava, Kill Baby Kill gets name checked. I love all that. I'm a huge fan of Monica Bellucci. I love the original Beetlejuice film. I'm the fan that should have been serviced by this film, but it just wasn't hitting any of the right notes for me.
I agree. I know what you mean about it being defanged. And again, this is another example of the PG-13 rating ruining films, because if we did just have 15 rating, then that would be fine. And because there's bits here like I don't understand. So they do say the F word at one point in this film, but then the other time they say it, it's bleeped. Which is, how often do you hear that in a film? And I don't think it was like a joke. Like I think it was just that that's one too many F words for a PG-13. That we've got to bleep it, and that really kind of jarred.
Yeah, and I totally understand. Like going back and watching Beetlejuice now, some of it is like, oh, I don't know if that is funny. I don't know if we should be making light of that, but I feel like we needed a modern version of that. Like he still needed to be edgy and subversive in some way, and I don't think I think it just really, like I say, was diluted. Yeah. There was I did enjoy. Rory pops up multiple times in this film.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
I really liked Rory until the last 2 minutes. he let me down.
He let the Rorys. I was quite
all Rorys down.
I was quite disappointed when you told me Rory was going to be on the show today. I got quite excited because I thought you meant Justin Theroux. But it was just our Rory.
Yeah, sorry.
But there were some bits with him that I quite liked in that he plays this character who's basically a self-described empath. And there are lots of empathic people and they're lovely people, but there are some people who use that label as an excuse to not let you have feelings around them. And he's that kind of person, like, your sadness makes me sad and all that. And we could have had more of that, more kind of like I say, modern version of like you said, taking on the yuppies in the original. But I just think it was just...
I found him hilarious.
Yeah.
I thought it was really funny. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it more than you guys.
Yeah. Actually, I'm with you, Nadine. Like, I wasn't quite sure what this one was trying to say. Like the original was quite clear. It had a tight story.
Exactly.
It was satirizing a certain element of 80s society. And there's hints of satire in here, like the bit with the influencers and all that kind of stuff. And the supernatural
like
talk show. But none of it's really fleshed out.
It's not really integrated into that bizarre world, and even the location, the original house, the original town, they're like a character in that original film, and they all reappear in this version. But it just feels again like it's just there to go, oh look, there's that school, there's the house, there's the attic. It just doesn't have. There's just some magic missing from this. I'm afraid.
Did you guys fall? Because I didn't predict the plot twists.
I did.
I knew he was dodgy. I wouldn't say who, but I knew he was or she. I knew he or she was dodgy, but I didn't know that, like, obviously to the extent of that. And I thought there was a bit where they revealed with the
I knew that was because I was like, why aren't they showing her face? And I was like, right. Okay,
I think that's the problem. I think I predicted it.
We're
very
just smarter
early
than you.
Yeah, I'm just a dumb, just dumb back on the radio.
When you get to our age, nothing surprises you anymore.
But you know what? I think maybe if we'd had a post-Me Too real reckoning with Beetlejuice and really gone for it and said, the first one is not.
Yeah, Beetlejuice just as a courtroom drama.
Yeah, we could have really, do you know what I mean? But I feel like instead what they've done is just kind of jettisoned all that, but also just like ignored it as what, like saying, oh, well, we'll just make a nice sort of, I
think you're asking too much.
I also think maybe there wasn't any need for the Dietz family to come back to be in it. It should have been just someone else being at that house or whatever, and they discover this model. It's just cool. But just I don't know. It's
I think there was more fun to be had. I did like Delia had a few good lines. I like the bit about her work being worth more. Yeah. At the end, but I think
the primal scream.
The ending was quite bizarre. It really kind of towards the end, it just sort of.
Yeah, I really like the musical numbers. To be fair, and the big set piece. I was like, okay, this is good fun. But
I think towards the end, it started having fun, but it took its time to get there.
Yeah, it did. But anyway, so Rory recommends it. We say it's all right.
Don't take it too seriously.
No, I say it wasn't worth it.
Wasn't worth it.
No. Pales in comparison to the original.
Yeah.
In a good way.
How appropriate.
It pales in a good way.
Not in a Tim Burton way, unfortunately.
Very good. Well, yeah, that's probably enough on Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Do we think there's going to be a Beetlejuice?
This is the problem.
Yeah.
Could there be a threequel? Because if we go by the naming convention, and I won't say it because I don't want to, but
wouldn't be able to ask for a ticket without summoning Beetlejuice.
Be terrible.
Anyway, well, there we go. That's our thoughts. Have you seen anything else that you want to talk about?
Just quickly, I want to mention Screen B14 had a screening of Mishima at the Mockingbird, and it was our first ever sold out screening at the Mockingbird, I believe, which is amazing for quite an obscure Paul Schrader film that came out in like 1984, 1985. It's my first time seeing it. Exquisite production design. Actually, I think possibly my new favourite score, like one of the best scores I've ever heard. Is it Philip Glass?
Yeah.
Amazing score. I was listening to it on the train, and I'm not a big, listener to film scores, but I just loved it. It made my commute 100 times more dramatic. Listening to I just felt like I don't know what I was going to walk into when I got off the train, but I'm like, this is like a life-changing moment, just walking around listening to this. Really interesting film. I would definitely recommend, if you missed the screening, do track it down. Really interesting film, and one for the Paul Schrader fans. And if you're interested in Paul Schrader, why not listen to our previous episode all about him?
Don't. We don't care about Paul Schrader.
Poor hater.
Rory, have you seen anything recently?
Kinds of Kindness.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't very kind to me, but it was amazing. Well, it was an experience. And I obviously won't go into details, but you got to watch it, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, we already did.
Yeah, I think we reviewed it on the show, didn't we?
talked about it on the show.
But you don't listen to the show, so you wouldn't know.
I didn't realise people did.
No, you're right.
I'm sorry,
yeah, no one does.
They do. I do listen. Yeah. I do listen.
Just to your bit.
Yeah. Very good. Well, that is an experience. Kinds of Kindness. Just very quickly, I want to issue an apology. Because I, for a long time, have been bemoaning the existence about an American remake of the perfectly good 2022 Danish film Speak No Evil. And I was like, what's the point? It's stupid, because most of the original Danish one is in English anyway. So I was like, why do it? And you know what? I went to see the remake, and it was very good. So I am sorry, James Watkins. I was wrong. Because, yes, for the beginning of the film, it is just the same as the original. And I was just like, okay, this is good, but it's only because the original was good. And then there's a certain point where the stories diverge, and this does definitely turn into its whole thing. Because the original is a lot more subtle. The original is still better, and it's darker, more cynical, and it's more just intelligent. And this is very much just, it Hollywoodizes it in that it does really lean into the horror in the third act, and it basically turns into Straw Dogs at the end. But yeah, it makes some really interesting changes, and it's quite satisfying. So I would actually recommend the remake of Speak No Evil. So yeah, check it out. It is a horror of manners, you might say.
What does that mean?
Well, it's basically about two couples who meet on holiday. One of the couples invites them to come and stay with them back in England, and then when they get there, there's a series of microaggressions and just various things, just a bit weird. But the couple are just too polite to kind of. It's all about
my family holidays.
It's all about politeness and how far you will accept something that is clearly possibly quite bad, and just out of politeness. So yes, will you get yourself into a situation where you might get killed out of being nice? So yeah, I like that. So that's what. So it's not a comedy of manners. It's a horror of manners. Yeah. So yeah, there you go.
Very nice.
So yeah, I recommend it. Anyway, that's about all we've got time for on this week's show. Thanks for joining us as always. But first of all, we still have time for Nadine's roundup of local events.
Woo!
Woo!
There are a lot of events coming up for you film fans, so pay attention.
Okay.
So we've got Eno on the 8th of October at the Mockingbird Cinema. And I believe it's different every time you watch it or something. So it's going to be a completely unique experience. Don't ask me how. I don't understand how this works, but it's going to be a completely unique experience.
So that's just reminded me of a whole other tangent. Did you hear about how Francis Ford Coppola wanted to use voice recognition in Megalopolis so you could talk to Adam Driver? Carry on.
On the 25th of September, whatever pays the rent will be showing Little Shop of Horrors at the Hare and Hounds. Little shop of horrors, little shop. And on the 1st of October, Journey Film Club will be showing Milk at the Birmingham LGBT Centre. We've also got some film festivals coming up. So we've got the BFI, LFF at MAC. From the 9th of October onwards. So that's the London Film Festival is coming to Birmingham. So you don't have to bother going all the way down to that London. You can watch Blitz, you can watch Honora, you can watch all these really cool films that we've been hearing about. Night, you might have to bleep that. You can watch them in the comfort of the MAC screening room. And we also have the Birmingham Anime Film Festival coming up. And we've got screenings from the 19th of September onwards at the Mac and the Mockingbird. Films like Cowboy Bebop, Cyber City, Mind Game. Lots of great anime classics there for you. So do check out the Birmingham Anime Film Festival. And then in November, we've got the Square Eyes TV Festival. So it's just festivals after festivals.
My goodness.
Yeah. But yeah, loads.
Exciting times.
Indeed.
Exciting times.
Well, thanks very much for that, Nadine. Well, that is definitely all we've got time for on this week's show. Thanks very much for joining us, as always. Do be sure to join us next time. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from me, Paul.
It's goodbye from me, Nadine.
Good night. That's goodbye from me, Rory.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
You have been listening to The Brum Picture Show, a Screen B14 production for Brum Radio. Tune in next time for more film fun, and don't forget to email us at pictureshow@brumradio.com. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
But yes, but eventually they made one. And that's what we've got. What?
They're not plugged in.
Didn't you have them on before?
That's what I thought.
Are they the wrong ones?
I don't know, but they're not plugged in.
It looks good though.
Yeah, look good.
Anyway,
did you just not notice that they weren't on the
I don't know.
Do you actually not remember if there was sound coming out of them?
I don't know. Maybe I just like that it kind of
drowned my voice out.
Yeah, they were just mufflers at that point.
Oh dear. Okay. Anyway, so Beetlejuice. Sorry, yes, for the listeners, Nadine has been wearing her headphones for the entire recording session, and she's just realised that they're not plugged in. How this has happened, I do not know. But yes.
Just trying to drown out your heart.
That's what she wants to say.
Oh dear.
Oof.
Well.
Anyway.
How rude.
Thank you for listening to this Brum Radio podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your podcast app.